Arguments for God's existence can seem like an abstract philosophical matter, like who cares? If you've got a firm faith, you don't necessarily need to think about those things. They do have some relevance, though. One is that they are useful in showing to people who think you're not rational for believing what you do that you can say something for yourself, that it's not all just a matter of faith. And occasionally your faith does need some bulwarks, and if you think well of the arguments, they can function as that for you. I had a case of that myself. When I was 42, I had a collapse. I was exhausted and overworked, and during that time, my brain spontaneously rewired itself. I don't know if you've ever had a really bad migraine, where it hurts very bad, and light hurts you, and sound hurts you, and you don't want to be around anything. And a very bad migraine, typically you'll be that way for 2 or 3 days, and then you'll revert to your normal self. What happened to me, mine just didn't stop. I had migraine symptoms. Take the worst one you've ever had, multiply it by 10 or 20, and it just went on for weeks and months. Now, I couldn't read because the light reflecting off the page was too painful. I couldn't talk to anybody over a whisper because the sound was too painful. So I spent 2 full months sitting still in a hard chair in a darkened room with plugs in my ears. That was all I could do to control the pain. You have no idea how slowly time can pass. Now, I was, of course, seeing doctors, and they tried various things that you would try with a standard migraine, and they all just made matters worse. So this was my situation. I'd been for 2 months, couldn't talk to my wife, couldn't kiss her because, my gosh, that made the blood rush to my head, and that really hurt. And you start to wonder, is this going to be the rest of my life? Am I just going to be sitting here in the dark, not moving, in constant pain, trying to hope that the day eventually ends? Well, you do think about what you really believe at times like that. So I just was thrown back on the question, well, in a situation like this, would it really be wrong to take the exit? I can't say I thought about that very seriously as a concrete matter, but I did consider it in the abstract. And of course, I couldn't consult the Bible to see why taking the exit would be a wrong thing, and I didn't know any philosophical arguments on the subject. I asked myself to begin with, well, is there a God at all? And if there is a God, would he really want me to just keep on this way? I thought about it, and my own assessment of the arguments for God's existence was that at the very least, it would not be a good bet to say that God did not exist. There just seemed to be too much pointing in that direction. If there is a God, do I have anything to bargain with him about? Can I sort of make him a deal? One thing I learned very forcefully at that time is that there is nothing you can give God to bargain with. You don't have anything he needs. You don't have anything you don't already owe him. Anything you've ever had from God is just a gift. And if he decides it's time for the gift to end, or it's time for the gift to turn a little bit less than pleasant, well, that's his right. So what do? Do you have the right to take the exit in a circumstance like that when it looks like the rest of your life will be just intolerable? I had to say that just the weight of human traditions said, well, there must be something behind this. So at least it's not a good bet that taking the exit is acceptable. So, considering things in the abstract, I came to the conclusion that too probable that there is a God, too probable, or at least not a good bet, that if there is a God, he doesn't particularly want me to do that. If there is a God, he has the right to just make me sit here and take it. So I sat there and I took it. The thought that there was a God was not particularly comforting to me at that point, but it was an abstract thing that sort of said, this is probably what the facts are, and live your life in the light of that. Eventually they found some meds that sort of enabled me to get my life back. And after about a year, I was able to return to work. And my book picked up, and lo and behold, I wound up at Oxford. But that was the low time in my life, and that was the role arguments for God's existence had in it.